The Trump administration is firing the head of the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, just 1 month after she was confirmed by the Senate. Susan Monterez was sworn in as the director of the CDC back on July 31st. But White House aides say that Monterez is not, quote, aligned with the president's agenda, and she refused to resign. Her lawyers say she was standing up for science. On top of that, at least 4 top officials at the CDC are also resigning. They submitted their resignations yesterday, saying the recent changes and leadership at the agency are preventing them from fulfilling their duties.
All right, joining us now, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. Khalif, we know the CDC director serves at the will of the president, so can be fired. But in terms of being a whistleblower and saying, okay, wait a minute, we're standing up for what science is, does she have any recourse there?
You would assume that there are whistleblower protections, and so if her firing is retaliatory and not for cause, but the president doesn't even need cause in those situations. So it's kind of a gray area. If some of her staff would have been terminated, I think it's an easier answer. If she would have terminated her staff for this and they would have said, hey, I was whistleblowing because you guys weren't following science, easy answer, there's protections in place. But a person that serves at the pleasure and the leisure of the president, I don't think she has those same protections. It can't be retaliatory in nature, but she could fire her because it's a Wednesday, and he has that authority to do that. But we look at this and make it seem like it's an everyday thing. Her attorney said that, look, she's not going to be a rubber stamp. I looked at their social media posts. He said first they attacked individual and independent advisory committees and then career experts. And now they are attempting, they have their sight on weaponizing public health, attacking Secretary Kennedy. Those are the types of things that are problematic. We throw this word around, weaponizing everything, weaponizing the Department of Justice, weaponizing education. Now we're talking about weaponizing public health. But this is extremely problematic because what they do at the CDC is extremely important. Looking at their definition on their website, it helps save lives, protects people from health threats, and to accomplish that mission, it's the science part. CDC conducts critical science and provides health information that protects our nation against expansive and dangerous health threats. That's what they do, and they've been doing that for a number of years. One of the first organizations to talk about AIDS in the 80s, published an article when they found the first case. One of my favorite movies and books, In the Band Plays On, documents exactly what happened during that time frame. But what was happening? They were finding the information based on science, but politically, they were getting pushback. Reagan said, we're not going to fund it, we're not going to support it, because there was a lot of social norms that they didn't like that the science was pointing them to, and because of that, they didn't want to put any money behind it. So this isn't anything new. The CDC has been fighting these types of things for a long time, but this is just the newest rendition of it.
We know that she's publicly talked about misinformation when it comes to vaccines. Is any of that, will she need some of what her findings are, maybe along with these other 4 officials that are stepping down? Can any of that be used as evidence and saying, hey, this is why I'm standing in my beliefs, maybe that are contrary to the president or to the secretary, because here's what I found. Does that help or not really?
I think if it was a situation where she wasn't serving at the leisure of the president, and if it was a normal position anywhere else, public sector, private sector, even in a public position that wasn't the executive branch authority, nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate, I think everything you mentioned would be strong support to say, look, the science supports this, even though you guys are wanting us to put out information that is anti and misinformation to what the science says. I am not going to do that, and I won't be your rubber stamp. Yeah, that would be a smoking gun in any of those type of cases. I just think in this scenario, it won't be effective. I mean, you talk about the type of science that they do, and I want to make sure I emphasize this because we talk about removing vaccines. We talk about how this stuff isn't important. Polio, eradicated based on CDC's work. Smallpox, malaria, toxic shock syndrome, lead poisoning, tobacco-related illnesses. These are all the things they're fighting, unknown pathogens, HIV, as I mentioned before, and now we have the measles outbreak that's happening in Texas. So while at the same time we're fighting this outbreak that we haven't seen probably in 60, 70 years, because of the information, or I should say the misinformation that's going out there. Yes, she wasn't a medical doctor, but she was an infectious disease scientist. This is literally what she does.
Khalif, I do want to know, would anything come out of the fact, because we do know the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, their chairman, Bill Cassidy, says they're going to look into this. On that route, with Congress getting involved in looking at this, could we see anything come out of that route?
Absolutely not. Again, agree or disagree with the president.
So no legal changes could come from that?
Not with her saving her position. When they attempted to remove her before by saying you're no longer in your position, her attorney said the only person that can fire me, and I believe this wholeheartedly, is the president.
But nothing could change in terms of procedural looking in the future for future positions if they find something was wrong with this.
No, not at all. Congress doesn't have the authority to take an executive branch positions of power away from the president. I mean, as the executive has attempted to expand their authority throughout this administration a number of times, that's something that has always been there and cannot be removed. That's why we have these three co-equal branches of government.
All right, Khalif, appreciate that. A lot of topics we covered today.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.